Maya Chen stared at the holographic display floating before her, trying to maintain her diplomatic composure despite the revelation that threatened to shatter her world. The alien text scrolling across the screen confirmed her worst fears. She had accidentally compromised Earth's security through her work on the Stellar Archive. The massive chamber aboard the Valkyrie flagship felt suddenly claustrophobic, its crystalline walls seeming to close in around her. Warrior Prince Zarin stood motionless on the other side of the conference table, his silver-scaled skin reflecting the ambient light, those unnerving violet eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. "You understand the gravity of your situation, Diplomat Chen?" His voice carried the peculiar harmonic quality common to his species, yet held none of the hostility she might have expected. If anything, he sounded almost apologetic. "I was translating historical records," Maya said, fighting to keep her voice steady. There was no way to know the archive contained tactical data that could compromise Earth's defensive systems. She straightened her shoulders, meeting his gaze directly. "But that doesn't justify holding me responsible for actions taken in good faith during a peaceful academic exchange." Zarin's head tilted slightly, an eerily bird-like motion. "The archive's existence was meant to remain secret. Your remarkable linguistic abilities have created a complicated situation." He moved around the table with fluid grace that belied his imposing stature. "The Drachnid Confederation now knows of Earth's location. They will come, and your world's defenses cannot hope to resist them." Maya's hands clenched at her sides. The Drachnid Confederation, she had seen enough intelligence reports to know what that meant. A civilization of conquest that made the ancient Mongol Empire look benevolent by comparison. "Then help us," she said. "The Valkyrie have the technology, the military strength." "Indeed." Zarin stopped barely an arm's length away. "Which is why I offer you a choice, Diplomat Chen. Become my mate, a formal alliance between our peoples that would place Earth under Valkyrie protection. Or remain as my prisoner, your knowledge and abilities contained where they can do no further harm." Maya felt as though all the air had been sucked from the room. "That's not a choice," she managed. "That's coercion." "That is reality," Zarin countered, though his tone held no satisfaction. "Your work on the archive has bound our fates together, whether we wish it or not. I offer the best protection I can within the constraints of our laws and customs." Maya turned away, moving to the chamber's vast viewport. The blue-green marble of Earth hung in the distance, peaceful and unaware of the danger she had inadvertently brought to its doorstep. Her mind raced through diplomatic protocols, international laws, anything that might provide a way out of this impossible situation. "How long do I have to decide?" she asked finally. "The Drachnid Advance Fleet will reach your solar system in approximately 30 Earth days." Zarin's reflection appeared beside hers in the viewport. "I must have your answer before then, so appropriate preparations can be made." Maya closed her eyes, drawing a deep breath. When she opened them, her diplomatic mask was firmly back in place. "I'll need to review the exact terms of both options. And I want access to all available intelligence on the Drachnid threat." A slight smile curved Zarin's lips, the first real expression she'd seen from him. "Logical requests. I would expect nothing less from the woman who deciphered the archive." He gestured, and a holographic interface materialized before her. "Everything you need will be provided. You will be given quarters appropriate to your station, regardless of your eventual choice." As Maya followed a Valkyrie attendant from the chamber, her mind was already sorting through the implications, looking for angles she could use. She had 30 days to find a solution that wouldn't cost either her freedom or her world's safety. The weight of that responsibility settled onto her shoulders like a physical burden. Behind her, she heard Zarin speaking softly in his native tongue. Her enhanced translator rendered the words with perfect clarity: "Choose wisely, Maya Chen. The fate of two civilizations may rest upon your decision." She squared her shoulders and kept walking. One step at a time. That was how you solved impossible problems: break them down, find the patterns, look for opportunities others might miss. She had 30 days to turn this disaster into an opportunity. She just hoped it would be enough time. Maya's temporary quarters aboard the Valkyrie flagship put Earth's finest diplomatic suites to shame. The living crystal walls pulsed with soft bioluminescence, responding to her movements and moods in ways she was only beginning to understand. But despite the luxury, she couldn't shake the feeling of being a gilded prisoner. 7 days had passed since Zaren's ultimatum. 7 days of poring over intelligence reports, cultural briefings, and legal documents. The more she learned about the Drachnid Confederation, the more her stomach twisted. They weren't just conquerors, they were systematically harvesting entire civilizations for resources and technological advancement. A soft chime announced a visitor. Maya looked up from her data terminal to find Kira, her assigned Valkyrie cultural liaison, in the doorway. The female Valkyrie's scales held a bluer tint than Zaren's, and her movements were more fluid, almost dancing. "The War Council has convened," Kira announced. "Prince Zaren requests your presence." Maya raised an eyebrow. Requests or demands? With the prince, there is often little difference. Kira's expression held what Maya had learned to recognize as amusement. "Though he seems to make exceptions where you are concerned." Following Kira through the ship's crystalline corridors, Maya mulled over that observation. She'd noticed Zaren's unusual deference to her opinions during their brief interactions this week. Either he was an exceptionally skilled manipulator, or there was more to his marriage proposal than simple political expedience. The War Council chamber was a vast amphitheater, its tiered seating filled with Valkyrie military commanders. Their scaled armor caught the light as they turned to watch her entrance. Zaren stood at the central platform, his commanding presence drawing all eyes. "Diplomat Chen," he acknowledged as she took her assigned place. "We have received new intelligence concerning the Drachnid advance fleet." The holographic display activated, showing a cluster of massive warships moving through space. Maya's enhanced translator worked overtime as technical specifications and tactical assessments filled the air. The Drachnid fleet was larger than initially estimated, and they weren't just sending a scouting force. "They mean to take Earth in a single strike," one commander declared. "Their weapon systems are specifically calibrated for penetrating planetary defense shields." "Which Earth doesn't even have," Maya interjected. Every head turned toward her, but she pressed on. "Our most advanced defensive systems would be like tissue paper to these ships. We need immediate intervention. The Valkyrie Protectorate cannot commit to full military engagement without proper alliance protocols," another commander stated. "Our laws are absolute on this matter." Maya's eyes narrowed. "Laws that conveniently require my marriage to your prince?" A ripple of surprise moved through the chamber. Apparently, such directness wasn't common in Valkyrie politics. But Zaren's violet eyes held what might have been approval. "The laws exist for good reason," he said. "But perhaps it is time Diplomat Chen understood their full context." He gestured, and the holographic display shifted to show historical footage that made Maya's breath catch. Scenes of devastating warfare played out before them, entire solar systems reduced to cosmic debris. "The last convergence war," Zaren explained. 3,000 years ago, when the great powers of this galaxy nearly destroyed themselves. The marriage laws were created to prevent such conflict, binding civilizations together through formal, unbreakable alliances. "And if Earth doesn't agree to such an alliance?" Maya asked quietly. "Then by our laws, we cannot interfere when the Drachnid come." Zaren's expression was grave. "We can only contain the damage, prevent their expansion further into our territory. Earth would be sacrificed for the greater stability of the galaxy." Maya stood, drawing herself to her full height. "I'd like to propose an alternative." Murmurs rippled through the chamber, but she continued. "Your laws require a marriage alliance. They don't specifically require it be between your prince and Earth's representative. Zaren's eyes widened slightly, the first time she'd seen him truly surprised. Explain. Earth has a long history of proxy marriage and diplomatic unions. If we expand the candidate pool to include other suitable matches between our peoples, we could satisfy your laws while maintaining greater autonomy for both parties. The chamber erupted in discussion. Maya caught fragments of conversation in multiple languages, her translator struggling to keep up. But her focus remained on Zaren, watching as he processed her suggestion. An interesting proposal, he said finally. Though it would require careful consideration of bloodlines, political standings. And it would give us more time to prepare for the Drachnid threat, Maya pressed. Time we desperately need. Zaren studied her for a long moment, then turned to address the council. We will recess to consider Diplomat Chen's proposal. Commander Vex, prepare tactical scenarios accounting for this possibility. As the council members filed out, Maya found herself alone with Zaren. He approached slowly, his expression unreadable. That was either very clever or very dangerous, he said softly. Why not both? Maya met his gaze steadily. Unless you're offended that I'm trying to dodge our arranged marriage? To her surprise, Zaren laughed, a warm, melodic sound that transformed his entire demeanor. On the contrary, you've proven exactly why you would make an excellent mate. But your proposal has merit beyond its obvious attempt to buy time. Then you'll support it? I will consider it. He stepped closer, and Maya fought the urge to step back. But remember, Diplomat Chen, sometimes the obvious solution is obvious for a reason. As Maya returned to her quarters, her mind raced with new possibilities. She'd bought some time and maneuvering room, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she was missing something crucial. The way Zaren had looked at her, as if she'd passed some test she hadn't known she was taking. The game had changed, but she wasn't sure if she was winning or just digging herself deeper into an interstellar political crisis. Either way, the clock was still ticking, and the Drachnid fleet drew closer with each passing moment. The ship's data core hummed softly as Maya pored over the historical records, her eyes burning from hours of focused study. Something wasn't adding up about the Drachnid threat. Their attack patterns, their sudden interest in Earth, it all felt orchestrated, like pieces being moved on a cosmic chessboard. You're going to strain your neural implants if you keep this pace, Kira observed from the doorway. The Valkyrie liaison entered with a container of what Maya had come to recognize as their equivalent of coffee. The Drachnid fleet changed course 6 hours ago, Maya said, accepting the drink gratefully. They're taking a longer route to Earth, one that adds 3 days to their journey. Why would they delay their own invasion? Perhaps they encountered navigational difficulties? Kira suggested, but her tone indicated she didn't believe it either. Maya pulled up a galactic map, highlighting the Drachnid fleet's trajectory. Look at this. They're skirting the edge of the Valkyrie defensive network, staying just outside detection range. Someone gave them our sensor specifications. That's impossible, Kira protested. Those specifications are known only to the highest levels of Valkyrie command. Exactly. Maya's fingers flew over the interface, correlating data points. And who has been pushing hardest against my alternative marriage proposal in the War Council? Kira's scales shifted color slightly, a sign of dawning realization. Commander Vex. The same Commander Vex who's been given unprecedented access to Earth's defense capabilities. Maya stood, her fatigue forgotten. We need to speak with Zaren. Now. But when they reached the prince's chambers, they found them empty. A quick check with ship security revealed he was in a private meeting with none other than Commander Vex. The secondary observation deck, Kira said, already moving. It's where the commander prefers to conduct sensitive discussions. They hurried through the crystalline corridors, Maya's heart pounding. If she was right about this, they were all in far more danger than anyone realized. The observation deck's doors were sealed, but Kira pressed her hand to the security panel. "Override access Sigma-9," she said. "Security protocol breach in progress." The doors slid open silently, revealing Zarin and Commander Vex in what appeared to be a heated discussion. Both turned at the interruption, Vex's scales darkening with anger. "This is a private meeting," he snapped. "How dare you?" "The Drachnid aren't coming for Earth," Maya interrupted, stepping forward. "They're coming for the Valkyrie. Earth is just the bait." Silence fell. Zarin's violet eyes fixed on her with laser intensity. "Explain." Maya projected her findings onto the room's holographic display. "The Drachnid fleet's new course takes them through these 3 sectors, all of which happen to be key points in the Valkyrie defense network. If they strike there while your forces are committed to Earth's defense, our core worlds would be exposed," Zarin finished, his expression hardening as he turned to Vex. "And you've been feeding them our tactical data." The commander's hand moved toward his weapon, but Zarin was faster. In a blur of motion, he had Vex pinned against the viewport, the commander's own blade at his throat. "The Drachnid offered you something," Zarin said, his voice deadly calm. "What was it?" "You're a fool," Vex spat. "The old ways are holding us back. The marriage laws, the alliances, they make us weak. The Drachnid understand strength. They offered us a place in their new order." "They offered you a place," Maya corrected, scanning through the data on her terminal. "Personal accounts on hidden worlds, technology transfers, political power. You sold out both our civilizations for your own gain." Vex's scales rippled with rage. "You know nothing of our struggles. The Valkyrie Empire was built on conquest, not these pathetic diplomatic games. And you," he glared at Zarin, "you would dilute our bloodlines by entertaining her ridiculous proposal for alternative marriages." "The proposal that forced you to accelerate your timeline," Maya said. "That's why the Drachnid fleet moved early. You were afraid we'd establish a legitimate alliance before you could spring your trap." Zarin's blade pressed closer to Vex's throat. "Where are the rest of your conspirators?" A harsh laugh escaped the commander. "You're too late. The signal has already been sent. The Drachnid know every weakness in your precious defense network. And when they come—" His words cut off in a gurgle as hidden panels in the ceiling opened, disgorging armed figures in unfamiliar armor. Maya dove for cover as energy weapons filled the air with deadly light. Through the chaos, she saw Zarin engaging multiple attackers at once, his movements a deadly dance of precision. Kira pulled Maya behind a structural column. "Drachnid infiltrators," she explained, drawing her own weapon. "They must have been hiding in the ship's maintenance sectors." Maya's mind raced. The ship's security systems would be compromised, communications likely blocked. They needed to warn the rest of the fleet, but how? Then she remembered something from her studies of the archive: the living crystal technology that formed the ship's bones could be used as a backup communication network. If she could access it. "Cover me," she told Kira, and began working her way toward the nearest crystal wall panel. Energy bolts sizzled past her head as she pried open the access point, her fingers flying over the alien controls. "Whatever you're doing, do it faster." Zarin called out, now fighting back-to-back with Kira as more infiltrators poured in. Maya's neural implants connected with the crystal network, and suddenly her consciousness expanded through the ship's structure. She could feel every vibration, every power fluctuation. And there, a pattern of energy she recognized from the archive's descriptions. The emergency broadcast frequency. She sent the warning signal pulsing through the crystal matrix, not just to the Valkyrie fleet, but to every ship and station in range. The evidence of Vex's betrayal, the true Drachnid battle plans, everything. The infiltrators' weapons suddenly died, their power drained by the crystal network's emergency protocols. In the silence that followed, Maya heard the distant sound of security teams mobilizing throughout the ship. She turned to find Zarin staring at her, his expression a mix of amazement and something else she couldn't quite read. "You continue to surprise me, Diplomat Chen," he said softly. "We're not done yet," she replied, pulling up the tactical display. "The Drachnid fleet will know their plan is exposed. They'll have to choose, retreat, or commit to a full assault. Then we must be ready either way." Zarin's hand found hers, warm and steady. "Together." Maya nodded, acutely aware of his touch but focused on the challenges ahead. They had won this battle, but the war was far from over. And somewhere in the depths of space, the Drachnid fleet was making a decision that would shape the future of both their civilizations. The emergency council chamber aboard the Valkyrie flagship hummed with tension as holographic representatives from Earth's governments appeared around the table. Maya stood beside Zarin, her diplomatic mask firmly in place despite her exhaustion. The last 48 hours had been a blur of interrogations, tactical planning, and urgent communications. "Let me be clear," the UN Secretary-General said, his holographic form flickering slightly. "You're telling us that Earth was never the primary target? That we're caught in the middle of an alien civil war?" "With respect, Secretary-General," Maya responded, "it's more complex than that. The Drachnid threat is real, but they're opportunists. Commander Vex's faction gave them the opening they needed to strike at both our civilizations. And we're supposed to trust the word of a diplomat who's been effectively held hostage?" China's representative challenged. Zarin stepped forward, his presence commanding attention even through the holographic interface. "Your diplomat has shown more courage and insight than many of my own commanders. Without her, we would not have uncovered the conspiracy in time." Maya felt a warmth in her chest at his words, but pushed the feeling aside. This wasn't the time for personal considerations. The Drachnid fleet will reach the outer solar system in 15 days. They know their original plan is compromised, but our latest intelligence suggests they're committing to a full assault. She gestured, and the holographic display shifted to show tactical projections. "They believe that even with our warning, we won't be able to coordinate an effective defense in time. And they're right, unless we do something unprecedented." The room fell silent as Maya laid out her proposal. A joint command structure, combining Earth's strategic creativity with Valkyrie technology. Temporary planetary defense shields, powered by a network of Valkyrie crystals. And most controversially, a modified version of the traditional alliance protocols. "Instead of a single marriage between leaders," she explained, "we propose a cultural exchange program. Multiple unions between compatible individuals from both species, creating a web of connections that satisfies the letter of Valkyrie law while preserving autonomy for both sides." The debate that followed was heated, but Maya could see the momentum building. Earth's leaders might not like being forced into an alliance, but they liked the idea of annihilation even less. And the Valkyrie commanders, shaken by Vex's betrayal, were more open to change than ever before. Hours later, as the last hologram flickered out, Maya felt her diplomatic mask cracking. She swayed slightly, and Zarin's hand was instantly at her elbow, steadying her. "When did you last rest?" he asked softly. "I'll rest when Earth is safe," she replied, but allowed him to guide her to a seat. The council chamber was empty now except for them and Kira, who was coordinating with the defense fleet. "You've done well," Zarin said, taking the seat beside her. "Better than I could have hoped when I first gave you that ultimatum." Maya turned to study his face, noting the subtle signs of fatigue around his eyes. "You knew, didn't you? Not about Vex specifically, but you knew something was wrong in your command structure. That's why you pushed for the marriage alliance so urgently." His violet eyes met hers. "I suspected. The traditional protocols would have given me the authority to investigate more freely. But your solution..." He shook his head in admiration. "You found a way to achieve the same goal while transforming our society for the better." "Assuming we survive the next few weeks," Maya said dryly. About that. Zaren's expression grew serious. There's something we haven't discussed. The modified alliance protocols you proposed, they still require a primary union to anchor the others. A symbolic joining of our people's leadership. Maya's heart skipped a beat. I know. It doesn't have to be us, he said carefully. We could choose others, representatives who. Zaren. Maya cut him off, surprising herself by using his name without titles for the first time. After everything we've been through, everything we've learned about each other, do you really want it to be anyone else? The look that passed between them held volumes of unspoken understanding. Before either could respond, Kira's urgent voice cut through the moment. My prince. The long-range sensors are detecting unusual activity. The Drachnid fleet, they're accelerating. They both stood, personal matters set aside as they moved to the tactical display. The enemy fleet's signature blazed across the scanner, moving far faster than their previous projections had suggested possible. They must have received new orders, Maya said, analyzing the data. Something spooked them into moving early. Or someone warned them about our preparations, Zaren added grimly. We may not have rooted out all of Vex's conspirators. Maya's mind raced through the implications. How long? At their current speed? Kira's scales shifted to a darker shade. 7 days. Maybe less. 7 days to prepare 2 civilizations for war. 7 days to implement defense systems that should take months to build. 7 days to turn theory and hope into a fighting chance for survival. Maya felt Zaren's hand find hers, their fingers intertwining naturally. Then we have work to do, she said. As they began issuing orders and coordinating with both fleets, Maya realized something had shifted between them. The original ultimatum, marry or be imprisoned, seemed like a lifetime ago. Now they were choosing to stand together, not out of duty or desperation, but because they had found in each other something worth fighting for. She just hoped they would live long enough to explore what that meant. The combined Earth-Valkyrie defense fleet hung in space like a constellation of steel and crystal, awaiting the coming storm. On the flagship's bridge, Maya watched the tactical display with forced calm as the Drachnid armada dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. They've brought everything, Kira reported, her scales shifting nervously. 3 times the forces we initially detected. Maya nodded, unsurprised. The past week had been a blur of preparation and innovation. The crystalline defense network around Earth was operational, if untested. The joint command structure was functioning better than anyone had dared hope, with human creativity complementing Valkyrie discipline in unexpected ways. Status of the backup plan? Zaren asked from his command position. Ready, Maya replied, touching the neural interface at her temple. The ship's crystal matrix hummed in response, connecting her to the vast network they had created. Though I still think you should let someone else take this risk. Zaren's violet eyes met hers. We do this together. Their relationship had deepened over the past week, forged in the crucible of crisis. The formal alliance ceremony had been brief, watched by billions on both worlds. But the private moments, stolen conversations, shared meals, quiet planning sessions that turned into deeper discussions, those had transformed their arranged union into something real. The tactical display flashed as the first wave of Drachnid ships launched their attack. Energy beams lanced across space, meeting the crystalline shields Maya had helped design. The barrier held, refracting the deadly energy into harmless light. They're probing our defenses, Zaren observed. The main assault will. Multiple signatures. Kira shouted. They're emerging behind us. Maya's heart jumped as a second Drachnid fleet materialized from hyperspace, catching them in a deadly crossfire. The remaining traitors in the Valkyrie command must have transmitted their defense plans. Execute Protocol Omega, Zaren commanded, his hand finding Maya's. Now. Maya closed her eyes, connecting fully with the crystal network. The technology that powered the Valkyrie ships, that formed the backbone of their civilization, had originally been designed for something far greater than defense. The archive had shown her the truth: it was meant to unite minds, to bridge the gap between species. Power surged through her neural interface as Zaren's consciousness joined hers in the network. Across the fleet, hundreds of human Valkyrie pairs linked minds through the crystal matrix, creating a unified defense grid unlike anything either civilization had imagined. Through their combined awareness, Maya and Zaren directed the battle like a vast, beautiful dance. Ships moved in perfect coordination, shields adapted instantly to new threats, and targeting computers functioned with impossible precision. The Drachnid fleet faltered, their carefully planned assault disrupted by defenses that seemed to anticipate their every move. But their numeric advantage was telling. One by one, ships in the Earth Valkyrie fleet began to fall. "The network can't handle this much strain," Maya gasped, feeling the crystal matrix beginning to fracture under the load. "We need to end this quickly." Through their linked minds, she felt Zaren's agreement, and his plan. It was risky, potentially suicidal, but it might be their only chance. They moved their flagship into position, drawing enemy fire as the crystal network channeled more and more power through their vessel. Warning alerts screamed as systems redlined, but Maya held on, trusting in Zaren's expertise and her own calculations. Now, they commanded in unison. The accumulated energy exploded outward in a wave of crystalline light, engulfing the nearest Drachnid ships. Where it touched their hulls, the crystal matrix took hold, spreading like living frost. Ships began to drift, their crews trapped in stasis as the crystal energy rewrote the very structure of their vessels. The remaining Drachnid commanders, faced with the horrifying sight of their ships being transformed into crystalline sculptures, began to retreat. But the wave continued to spread, giving them a choice: surrender or be converted. When it was over, nearly a third of the Drachnid fleet hung in space like abstract art, their crews preserved but helpless. The rest had fled, their fearsome reputation shattered by technology they hadn't known existed. Maya collapsed into Zaren's arms as the neural interface powered down. Around them, the bridge crew celebrated, but she could barely keep her eyes open. "Did we just win a space battle with the power of love?" she mumbled against his chest. His laugh rumbled through her. "I believe we won it with science, strategy, and the combined strength of our peoples. But yes, love played its part." She smiled weakly. "The Drachnid will be back, you know. And we still have to figure out how to make this alliance work long-term." "True." Zaren helped her to her feet, his touch gentle but supporting. "But I find I'm looking forward to facing those challenges together." Maya looked out at the starfield, where Earth and the crystalline fleet shared the same space. So much had changed since that first ultimatum. She had come to understand the Valkyrie, their dedication to preventing war through enforced connections. And they had learned from humanity about adaptation, about finding new solutions to old problems. Together, she agreed, and sealed the word with a kiss that promised a future neither of them could have imagined when their story began. In the void of space, the crystal matrix hummed with possibility, ready to bridge whatever gaps remained between their peoples. It wasn't a perfect ending, there would be challenges ahead, diplomatic hurdles to overcome, and centuries of cultural differences to navigate. But as Maya and Zaren stood on their bridge, surrounded by the combined strength of two civilizations, she knew they had found something rare and precious: a love that had grown from duty, a partnership forged in crisis, and a future bright with hope.